Hi, everybody. Welcome to Bob's Bookshelf. I'm your host, Bob. Today, AIGA Graphic Design USA 4, right here, with an exquisite cover design by Michael Vanderbyl and the book designed by James Miho. So for those of you who have been following these bookshelf episodes on YouTube, it might not have been clear to you why these are being made. So I teach at the California College of the Arts in San Francisco, and I've been making these for my Typography 2 students as a way for them to have additional reference material while we work on books and sort of system-oriented design projects. But after 14 episodes, today is episode number 15. And there's 15 weeks in a semester, and so the semester is coming to a close. So this is the last episode for the foreseeable future. So I thought instead of showing a book that's mainly about what I find inspiring about it in terms of its design, I would instead show this book, which is the book that changed my life. So let's pin and begin. All right. So AIGA Graphic Design USA 4. The AIGA, which is now just known as the AIGA, but it used to be that AIGA stood for something. It stood for the American Institute of Graphic Arts. And it's the premier graphic design organization in the United States. And they published design annuals for a number of years. It's been quite some time since they've even held design competitions aside from the book show. But back in the day, back when I was a graduate student and before, they had annual shows of all kinds, and then eventually published these compendium volumes for quite some time. I love books like this. Those of you who have been watching know I have a collection of old Graphis annuals. I have all the AIGA annuals as well. And it's just so interesting and useful to be able to use a reference like this to see what work was being made at a particular time. Granted, it's not all the work, but it's a very interesting cross-section. So on to how this book changed my life. So when I was a graduate student in the early 1980s in Kent, Ohio, the graphic design program at Kent State had this wonderful summer workshop that was called the Blossom Program. Every summer, they would bring in 3 designers from out of town to run 3 one-week-long workshops. And so you could sign up for this workshop and work with people from all over. One summer, I got to work with April Greiman, who will appear in here in a little bit. But when I was in grad school, one day, John Buchanan, who was one of my graduate advisors, brought this book to the graduate student studio and said, we're thinking about bringing some people in from California for Blossom this summer. Take a look at the California design section and see who you think would be exciting to have come. So let's go through and I'll continue that story. So here's the book. The book itself is designed by James Miho. Beautiful job, very much of its time, but a delight. You know, all of this great Posneg stuff, manipulating the hierarchy. But let's just go to the California section. All right. So this particular year, the AIGA did a show, a competition, specifically about California graphic design from 1980 to 1982. So I think this was, when I was talking to John about this, it must have been, I don't know, 1983 or 1984. But this opening spread is really great. It has this very brief statement here that really caught my imagination. And this was sort of the beginning of me getting the idea that I should move from Ohio to California and perhaps San Francisco specifically. So here's what it says. The designer as artist is much more visible in graphics done in California. The work appears to be freer, less formally tied to tradition, and more experimental. Frequently playful and humorous, it displays a joyful trendiness. So, I mean, all those things, everything about this description was music to my ears. Maybe not the trendiness part, but certainly the joyful part. Playful, humorous, experimental, less tied to tradition, all of that. I loved everything about that. So let's begin here. So on this first spread of posters, we have here a poster by April Greiman. Like I mentioned earlier, I had the opportunity to do one of those summer workshops with April Greiman earlier in the 80s. And I was really captivated by this kind of work that she was doing that were like these constructed photographs that operated graphically. And this became the inspiration for the kind of work that I did in my graduate thesis project. And I have that here. This is what a thesis project looked like in the early to mid 80s. So let's just go here. So this is the research section of my graduate project back here. So I went through and found every example I could of this kind of visual language, of these shallow, graphically constructed photographs that often also contain typography as well. So this poster made it into my graduate thesis research project. And then these inspired these kinds of photographic experiments I made, where I layered these various kinds of objects up on sheets of glass and then photographed them again. So it's a combination of objects and flat things. So these were the studies. And then for the project itself, I did this series of posters based on the operas of Robert Wilson. This is one of the more successful ones. So there's an object, a number of different layers of things, dimensional type, and then imagery silk screened on glass and all kinds of stuff. So it was a blast. So, you know, I'm greatly indebted in that way to April Greiman's work and to the attitudes about graphic design from California. Okay, let's move along. So here, posters by Michael Vanderbyl, poster by Michael Cronin, John Casado, Michael Mannering, John Casado again. So all these terrific, terrific designers. Michael Vanderbyl, April Greiman, Michael Mannering. So basically what I did is I went through this and kind of just took notes about like what work was really hitting me. So here's Michael Mannering again. Here's Metro Magazine, art directed by my good friend Tom Ingalls, Craig Fraser. So so many terrific designers in here. Here's Kit Heinrichs with these annual reports for Potlatch Corporation that were so influential and work that really still stands up even today, even after all of this time. Beautiful, beautiful cover illustration by Michael Mannering. Whole spread of these Potlatch projects by Kit Heinrichs. Michael Vanderbyl. Michael Mannering. Somewhere I have a copy of this poster. I couldn't find it, but I know it's here somewhere in one of the flat files. Another beautiful spread by Tom Ingalls. This beautiful furniture catalog system by Michael Vanderbyl. Jumping ahead, Michael Mannering, cover for the Oakland Athletics. I can't believe it, but there it is. Really amazing, amazing work. And then this whole spread of logos. And I just went through this spread and it was like every logo that I thought was terrific was by either Michael Mannering or Michael Vanderbyl or Michael Cronin. And so after going through this book, I told John Buchanan, you know, if you can get Michael Vanderbyl or Michael Mannering or Michael Cronin to come, that would be great. And he was like, well, you know, those were the folks we were pretty much thinking of. And as it turned out, they were able to have Michael Vanderbyl and Michael Mannering come for our workshop. So it was a terrific, terrific, terrific workshop. I got along great with those guys, and it really, it cemented in my mind the desire to move to San Francisco to begin my career. Let's go back to the other view here. Yeah. So one last little anecdote about this. So when I was thinking about moving to San Francisco, I asked Michael Vanderbyl what he thought of that idea. And his answer to me, which took me years to decode correctly, but his answer to me at the time was, there's always room for another good designer in San Francisco. I took that to mean drop everything and move to San Francisco. But years later, it occurred to me that what he did not say is, you're a good designer, you should move to San Francisco. He just said there's always room for another good designer. So I misinterpreted that, or maybe I interpreted it correctly. But anyway, I moved out and it's worked out terrifically. And so many thanks to John Buchanan for setting up that workshop all those years ago, and to Michael Vanderbyl and Michael Mannering for just a terrific, terrific workshop, and for being mentors to me all of these years. And also to April Greiman for that terrific work that she did with those photographic spaces that so inspired me to use as the formal vocabulary for my graduate thesis project. So anyway, there we go. A fantastic book filled with amazing work. And that's it. That's the end of Bob's Bookshelf for now. Thank you if you've been watching. And who knows, maybe I'll crank these up again later. But in the meantime, thanks a bunch and take care, and we'll see you around. Bye.